So as I said earlier in the service, the theme for this month is, that's how we've never done it. That's certainly a reminder to look at things in new ways, right? So back in my career, I was a problem solver. I was an internal consultant, so I was always going around and out into the company trying to identify what the problems may be and trying to figure out what the solutions might be too. And as I would meet with leadership and executives and things like that, and we'd be discussing options, one of the most frustrating things that I could hear someone say is, "Oh, that's not how we do it." Or we tried that before, and yeah, that's not how we do it, and we always do it this way. This is how we do it. And it gets us kind of stuck, right? And it's human nature to want to keep going to the tried and true, the things that we've built entire systems to uphold, and the ideas that we've invested heavily in, and we want to make sure we get a return on that investment no matter what. It's hard to walk away from some of those kinds of things, and that's the truth for companies, it's the truth for nations, it's the truth of cultures, communities, and individuals. We like to stick with the tried and true. It's just how we're wired. It seems to be how we're wired. But if our current circumstances aren't just exactly the way that we were hoping them to be, perhaps it's time to look at things in a new way. Be open to new ways of doing things, right? And new avenues to explore. And we're going to spend the month of March, it sounds like, looking at that idea of this grand rising that's going to be new. And if we're going to have a personal grand rising, it's important that we open ourselves up to grander possibilities, right? We have to be willing to question our patterns, to question our comfort zones, to look at the habitual ways we do things and see how those things might be holding us back from rising in a more grand way. If our community is going to have a grand rising, guess what? It's important that we look at how we do things and look as a group to new possibilities and questioning our collective patterns and the comfort zones that we have together. And since I was just with a whole bunch of community leaders wanting our whole organization to have a grand rising, we did a lot of possible seed planting over the past week. So here I am. For those of you who don't know, I have been on the road. I was in Charleston with 400 or so religious scientists, 400 people that live from a spiritual perspective like we do, 400 fellow practitioners and ministers, and y'all are called laity. If you're not, if you don't know that term, you're a lady. You're a lay person in our community. But all these people of our international organization came together to celebrate the past, but also to look to the future and what is up the road for us. And basically it was a pretty dedicated group of people. If you're going to come together and spend a week doing this, it's people that are really dedicated. And I was joined in Charleston by Terry, but also by our long distance practitioner, MLR was there. Actually, Elaine was there too. And I think all of us would agree it was incredibly inspiring and eye-opening. So we had these mind and heart opening speakers, like soul shifting speakers, and transcendent music, and we prayed together, we ate together, we meditated together, we visioned together, we learned together, we grew together for a week. And the question for me is, how do I bring it all back to you? How do I bring this energy back to you? Well, I can't really. But I can try to kind of share some of the stuff that I took away for myself, and then I'm going to encourage all of you to consider attending a CSL event somewhere in the future to get that experience of being around more people that think and feel like this. And I'm going to share some of the organizational stuff at our membership meeting on the 24th. But today I want to share the things that touched my soul. And I called my talk today Fresh and New because that's kind of how I feel. My mind is kind of swirling with ideas and new thoughts, and because we really were collectively focused on things being fresh and new. And I'm going to try to share it, but it seems a little hodgepodge to me, but because I want to touch on several different things, so just go on the ride with me this morning, okay? So there were many things at conference this time that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And one of them was a challenge for us to see our individual communities as a community that was built by Spirit for the people in the Tampa Bay area, that we are here by divine appointment. And to make sure that we as a group are open and welcoming to all people. Let's make sure that we take into consideration this deep craving that people have for a sense of belonging that we feel when we are in a community that cares about us. We want to walk into a place that's accessible, logistically, emotionally accessible, spiritually accessible, linguistically, socially. We come into a community looking for a place that accepts us the way we learn, that accepts us the way we live, the way we love, the way we're growing, the way we are healing, the way we are wanting to have a positive impact on the world. That's what we walk into a place looking for. And as you know, our global vision as an organization is a world that works for everyone. That's been a part of our global vision for years and years and years. And the symbol for the conference that expressed this theme was this lantern. I asked Rebecca to make this lantern. That was the symbol for the conference. And this lantern image was on all of the materials, on the presentation, on the handouts, the name tags, everywhere. On the stage, they had this backdrop curtain, and hanging from the curtain were 10 or so of these lanterns, real lanterns, kind of flickering on the stage. And this image was just like front and center the whole time. And since our conference was held in Charleston, South Carolina, the organization took the opportunity to embrace the culture and the history of Charleston. And you may or may not be aware that the high percentage of people that were kidnapped in Africa and brought into the United States and sold into slavery went through the ports in Charleston. And there's this brand new museum of African American history in Charleston that we walked through. We toured to get a better understanding of it all. And actually the executive director came and addressed our conference and welcomed us into the museum. And I learned so much inside those walls that I can't share it. There's no way. It was powerful. It was powerful. So in recognition of this history, these lanterns were used to illustrate and to symbolize the Underground Railroad, the way that many slaves found their way to freedom in the North by escaping the South. And back at that time in history, these lanterns were hung in houses, in barns, in places, so that the escaping slaves would know this is a place that will help me find my way to freedom. These were a place where I would be honored and welcomed, that help was available. Isn't that a powerful message, right? Right? And I found that symbol to be perfect for us as Centers for Spiritual Living, because we too are a place where individuals are welcomed, and they're welcomed into freedom. We help people on their way to freedom. We may not be freeing ourselves from slavery, but we are freeing ourselves from what? We're freeing ourselves from ways that we were taught that we were inferior, that we weren't good enough, that we were unworthy, we were less than, unwelcome, sinners, whatever we were taught. This is a place to come get free from that. We are on the road to freedom from religious dogma. We're on the road to freedom from systems of oppression and marginalization, from old ways of thinking that kept us bound to ways of life that no longer work for us. Follow this lantern here. And if you think when you first started looking for a spiritual community, whether it was earlier this morning or years ago, right? I bet you can identify ways that you too were looking for freedom. Maybe it was freedom from a religion that no longer suits you anymore. Or maybe it was freedom from an old definition of God that just didn't seem to make sense. Or maybe it was freedom from some personal level of addiction or worry or fear, right? Loneliness, pain, all the different things that we're looking for freedom from when we are seeking community. Maybe it was freedom from anxiety or depression or isolation or confusion, seeking freedom, seeking love on some kind of underground spiritual railroad. And you look for a lantern, and somehow we are a light So here at CSLTB, our intention is to be a light in this world, in this community, a safe place to come and learn and grow and heal and belong. So let us hang our lantern brightly and prominently. So how do we do that? How do we do that? So one of the things that we got clear on at this conference is that perhaps we may want to shift this sentence that we say, a world that works for everyone, to a world that works for all. Because if we take this broader approach of all, then we're including all sentient beings, all creatures great and small, the Mother Earth itself, right? Yes. And a world that works for everyone in all creation is kind of a better way of looking at that. And coming out of this idea, there's going to be a global community focus on Earth Day this year in April. So I'll be working to include something like that in our community this year too. So this idea on an organizational level will perhaps be more visible in the days and weeks ahead and months ahead. But what about here at the community level? So you may or may not know, because some of you are newer, but we established something called an environmental fund, and we care about Mother Earth very much. And this environmental fund is what pays for, we went away from having individual bottled water because we were giving out little bottles of water and so much plastic, and we decided we would go away from that. So now we have the water dispenser so you can refill your individual reusable bottles here, so we're not constantly throwing plastic away. And we moved away from styrofoam. We do things to keep moving us towards a world that works for all. So I invite us to continue these efforts as a community. If you see things we should shift, let us know. But as spiritual beings, I hope that you will take this focus into your own individual life too. Take one more step in the direction of supporting a planet that works for all forms of life in your personal realm of influence. It may seem like a small thing, but it signals to our children that we care about the world that they're going to inherit from us, right? Right?
Yes.
So what else? What else is fresh and new in Rev Laine's mind today? So you may have noticed at the beginning of service that I introduced myself and shared that my pronouns were she and her, and I saw a couple of little twinkers on your face. Right? So if we're going to light our lantern brightly and signal to all people that they are welcome here, we've got to deepen our identity as a center of diversity and inclusion that we are. We know that's who we are. How do we live that more out loud? Let's take it another step further and be a place where everyone can feel seen and welcome here. You know, as we welcome younger adults and those in the teenage years now, they're going to challenge us to move away from this gender binary thing that we've grown up to and raised to understand. Let's firmly place our lantern in the window as a haven for those looking for love and acceptance as they are. You know, we already have gender inclusive bathrooms. Thank you for whoever designed the building was ahead of time. We didn't have to change that. And we welcome non-binary individuals into our midst, but perhaps there's more we can do as our consciousness is raised on this issue. You know, several years ago, again, you don't know what we did before we got here, but we had this amazing workshop here at CSLTB that included a panel of transgender individuals and parents of transgender children being sensitive to teach us how to be sensitive to this population. And we grew so much collectively and as individuals that day. But as we enter a fresh new day, how do we take it to another level? So I'm going to start saying my pronouns at the beginning of service, and I invite you, if you step onto the microphone, if you're willing to share your pronouns, that signals to everyone that they are welcome here no matter how they identify themselves. You may have noticed on the Zoom meeting Wednesday night, I had she and her next to my name because it's time. It's time to step into this world that talks about pronouns. So people in the LGBTQ plus community can see a lantern in our very words and our efforts. So shine your lantern of inclusion here at the center, but in your own individual life too. So I want us to be thinking about how we keep our lanterns shining brightly to let everyone around us know that we are a place where spiritual safety can be found. That we are a place where emotional growth can occur. That we are a place where love is available to everybody. Are we perfect? No. But we are an option that many are unaware of here in Tampa Bay that they can come feel this year. So there was this lantern thing. But there was also this gorgeous theme of embracing the Gullah Geechee community and the culture, which led to my single most soul-shifting experience of conference for me. And I want to try to share about that too. So one evening, there was a concert that was given by a small choir from a praise house in the Low Country. And as common in Black churches, they do call and response. So there was a line that was sung, and then the audience or the congregation would sing back. And you know what I'm talking about, right? And you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So here's this room of 400 Science of Mind folks being asked to sing along with these very Christian lyrics that are being delivered with such power and soulfulness. It was compelling. And at first, many of us were a little reluctant to go there, right? We were like, are we doing this? Yeah, we're doing it. And so it didn't take long before we were all enthusiastically clapping and singing at the top of our lungs. I surprised myself, actually. But I could feel the songs. I could feel them. It is well with my soul. This little light of mine, how great thou art. We could feel them. We could feel them. I'm going to get tearful. They split our hearts open wide. And I felt this spiritual, energetic feeling I have rarely felt since childhood, actually. I simply wept. And you know what I'm going to do? I'll post a video of that concert on our members page so you can click on it and you can hear it for yourself and have your own experience. It won't be the same, but it'll be the fireplace on TV. How about that? This is powerful. And to me and many of those around me, it was just simply big and powerful. And I was trying to explain to Terry what was happening for me through this musical experience, through my tears. So I'm going to try to share it with you too. So many of you know that I was raised in fundamentalist Christianity, and I was taught that I was a sinner that needed the blood of Christ to save me and all that. And my dad was a preacher. And I walked away from that religion because I felt that the twist that they had put on Christianity just didn't make sense to me, right? This was wrong for me. I didn't believe the interpretation of the Bible that I was being taught, and I questioned everything until the answers were more confusing than the questions, right? And my mind walked away. But I realized last week that perhaps my heart and soul didn't quite get all the way away, right? Because the feeling that I was singing into last week was the feeling of God energy, and it was thick. It was thick in that room. It was this palpable feeling of life and source and joy and love, all being expressed through music, and music being created in a volume and force that I seldom find in Science of Mind centers. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right. So when people come to our teaching, sometimes they say, I miss Jesus. I miss that. I think they're expressing that they miss that palpable, energetic connection to spiritual force. I think that's what they're saying. We kind of feel it here when we sing Be Kind at the top of our lungs and we're hitting our instruments and all that. I want that energy. I don't necessarily want the overtly Christian message about needing to be saved, but I want that feeling. And so so here I have this Jesus kind of feeling musically. And then one of the final speakers of the conference was Reverend Josh Reeves from Mile High Church in Denver. And he posed this question to all of us. He asked, what is your relationship to Christianity? What is your relationship with Jesus, the master teacher, the great example, not the great exception? What is your relationship with that? And what he talked about really, really touched me. He emphasized that we are one of the only places where people can come and hear the same message that Jesus gave when he was teaching. We teach love and respect of all people, whether they're Jew or Gentile or prostitutes or lepers or whatever outcast category you want to put them in. We love them anyway. We teach that heaven is a state of mind, and that's what Jesus taught too. And hell is also a state of mind, and that God, our source and life, wants nothing but the best for us. Amen. We teach that if you ask, God responds. We teach that if you turn away from resentment and anger and fear and hurt, love and peace and a heavenly state of mind is just waiting for us. We teach that abundance is up to us to give and receive. We teach that anything can be healed because the truth is that we are whole in this moment and we have to see it for ourselves. Take up your bed and walk. When you can see it for yourself, you can do it. That's what Jesus taught. It isn't what most Christianity teaches, but it's what we teach. So I see that parallel with fresh and new eyes today. And I love that Reverend Dieter is about to teach this class about the big story, where he's going to unpack the big stories of the Bible so that we can make them our own. And if we can take down our walls of resistance, realizing that the people who taught us the Bible were looking at it from a very different perspective than what we can look at it, and we can use it for ourselves. There are pieces of wisdom in there that are ours. I want to take a fresh and new look at it. Dieter actually suggested a book for me by Rob Bell. Does anybody know who Rob Bell is? He's a Christian author, contemporary. He's really edgy and he's awesome. And he wrote this book called Love Wins. And he deconstructs the Bible concepts in this book. He deconstructs heaven and hell and love and redemption. And I just devoured that book in a matter of days. I just ate every word of it up. It was such great timing to come into my hands. It was literally waiting on me when I got home from conference. And I just sat down and read it this week. And if this topic is of interest to you, if you're interested in healing your relationship with this idea, take Reverend Dieter's class, read the book Love Wins. It's awesome. So I know I took this lesson all over the place. I'm trying to share a week's worth of learning into 20 minutes, but I wanted to give you a taste of my experience representing you at this conference. I'm sure I'll sprinkle little bits of it in the lessons to come, but I just wanted to give you some of it. The bottom line is that I want us to be mindful that we are a light, and that people see our lantern of hope and come here to feel safety and love and to receive spiritual food that nourishes them. Help me be that whenever you are here. When you wake up on a Sunday morning and have your grand rising, find that center of gratitude as you head this direction, as you follow the light that brought you here the first time back again and again. Anticipate your own experience of the lantern of hope in your own life too. It shines for all of us, and it shines for everyone on the planet. Will you join me in prayer? Here's what I know. What I know is that this light that is God's light, this light and light that is perfect, shines in this place. It shines emanating from the hearts of each one hearing this word. It shines a light of hope, a light of freedom, a light of truth. And we shine it on purpose. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be surrounded by a group of people that hold that lantern high with me here in Tampa and around the world. In that gratitude, I let it go and let it be. And so it is.
So it is. I am so